Welcome to Politics for Patriots. Here's your host, the eviscerator of progressive nonsense, the executioner of imbecility, and the grim reaper of BS, Eddie Zipper.
Hey, welcome to episode 70 of the Politics for Patriots podcast. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts from. I would really appreciate it. All right, big news. The Mueller report has been delivered to Attorney General Bill Barr. There are no surprise charges. There are no further indictments. There are no double secret indictments. I haven't seen the report. Neither has anyone except Bill Barr. But I can tell you right now, it says what we all knew it would say all along.
We ain't found shit.
If you are a Democrat, it's totally fine to be mad today. You should be mad today. But for God's sake, please direct your anger in the correct direction. Don't be mad at the justice system that they failed to do the bidding of a political party. That's a good thing. There are countries where the justice system does the bidding of political parties, and believe me, you don't want to live in those countries. Please, if you have even an ounce of self-respect, if the truth means anything at all to you, be mad at the people who have been lying to you. Be mad at Adam Schiff. This guy is a sleazier version of Joe McCarthy. Okay? He's been saying he has direct evidence of Trump colluding with the Russians. He didn't share it with us. Apparently, he didn't share it with Mueller. Be mad at him. The House Intelligence Committee has not found any evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. He's been lying to you. Right? The Senate Intelligence Committee did not find any evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. Robert Mueller is not calling for any indictments based on Trump-Russia collusion. Be mad at the people who lied to you. Be mad at Eric Swalwell. Be mad at CNN and MSNBC and Rachel Maddow, who pushed this fake narrative so hard and so consistently. To be honest, I feel sorry for Democrats today. I really do, because I will tell you this. If you get all your news from CNN, MSNBC, all those other mainstream media sources, you are completely blindsided right now. Because you've never heard the true story about all this. You don't know all the Fusion GPS stuff. You don't know about the FBI and Peter Strzok, and you don't know about the Clinton campaign and the Democratic Party paying for the dossier. I know it seems impossible to imagine a reality where you don't know these, where you pay attention and you don't know these things, but the reality actually exists. It's the mainstream media bubble. If you get your information from that bubble, you do not know these things and you are blindsided today. I feel bad. Most Democrats aren't lie peddlers. Those are just the elite Democrats and the mainstream media that are lie peddlers. Most Democrats are just victims of these lies. Most of them are good, patriotic Americans who love this country, but they get all their information from a bad place. They are victims here. Let's see, who else should you be mad at? You should be mad at the former bureaucrats who are deep in all this. Comey, Clapper, Brennan, McCabe. It should scare the hell out of you that these people held top positions in the U.S. intelligence apparatus. They are totally exposed now. You should be mad at Hillary Clinton, whose campaign invented the Trump-Russia story. You should be mad at the Democrats. Not all of them, but the ones who knew that this was a steaming pile of hoax, and they went along with the party anyway. That is the correct direction your anger should take today if you are a Democrat, but you are also a patriot. If you care at all about the truth, be mad at all those gaslighting McCarthyists who have lied to you, who caused you to be blindsided by this. I want to go through a little bit of history to talk about how we got where we are now.
I'm here to help you with your history report.
And I want to talk about how it perfectly illustrates what the left is all about. They follow a very simple formula. Step 1, invent a narrative. Trump-Russia collusion is a narrative that was invented by Christopher Steele and the phony dossier. The Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democratic Party paid Fusion GPS to get dirt on Trump, right? That's who paid for it. It wasn't the Free Beacon. That's not true. It was Democrats in the Hillary Clinton campaign who paid for this dossier. All right, so the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democratic Party paid Fusion GPS to get dirt on Trump. They did not pay for a fair and independent investigation of Trump. They paid for dirt. And we all know how the free market economy works. If you're a company and someone pays you a truckload of money for dirt, what do you give them? You give them dirt. No matter what. You don't show up and say, oh, well, we couldn't find anything, but thanks for the truckload of money. You get the dirt. Everyone knows that. If you go to Pizza Hut and you try to order a hamburger, they're going to tell you we don't have hamburgers. If you say, well, I have $1 million here and I really, really want a hamburger. Guess what? Somebody's going to go and track down a hamburger for you. They will get you a falafel from your favorite falafel cart in New York City if you show up with $1 million for lunch. So this was a hoax from the very start. I'm not going to go into the weeds. I'm not the guy who remembers the names. Right? That's what Dan Bongino says on his show. I know a lot of you listen to that podcast. That's what Dan Bongino says all the time on his podcast. Remember the names. But I don't remember the names. I can't remember the names. I just listen to Dan because I know that he remembers the names. All right, so Steele verifies, Christopher Steele, who put together the dossier, Steele verifies the quote-unquote dirt that he found by leaking it to third-rate media outlets and then pointing to their stories. Oh, see? You see that? They know about it. How could those media outlets know about it too, unless it's totes real? You see the magic trick there, I assume, right? It's circular.
It's circular. It's like a carousel. You pay the quarter, you get on the horse. It goes up and down and around. Circular, circle, with the music, the flow. All good things.
All right, so now the FBI has the wink, wink, verified dossier, and we know what happens then. The anti-Trumpers in the top ranks use it to spy on the Trump campaign. They couldn't wait. It was like Christmas for them. Okay? Peter Strzok. Do you remember Peter Strzok? He's the guy who texted these things.
OMG, he's an idiot. Now the pressure really starts to finish MYE. Hi, how is Trump other than a douche? Melania? Trump is a disaster. I have no idea how destabilizing his presidency would be. No, he's not. We'll stop it. I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. I can't pull away. What the F happened to our country, Lise?
All right, so Peter Strzok is just sick to his stomach from smelling all the Trump supporters at the Walmart that he just can't wait to get Trump out of office. All right, so Comey gets fired, presumably because the FBI is running political black ops for the Democratic Party on his watch. So then he leaks memos through a buddy to the press in order to get a special counsel appointed. This would never work if Trump were a Democrat, by the way, because Democrats don't fall for these tactics. I'm not saying Trump fell for them. I'm saying that Trump didn't have the kind of support that a Democratic president would have in this situation because Republicans are jellyfish, not all of them, but lots of Republicans are jellyfish, and they want to go along with whatever the mainstream narrative is so that they don't look like, they don't get smeared at it. Well, I'll get to that later. All right, so that brings us to step 2. You've created the fake narrative. Now it's time to get the MSM, the mainstream media, to peddle your fake narrative. So take a look at what Comey, Clapper, and Brennan have been up to on Twitter. They've been pushing this Trump-Russia nonsense. Brennan is tweeting all the time, Trump is a traitor, this is treason. Nobody has been pushing it harder than Brennan, who incidentally once voted for a legit communist to be president of the United States. Look it up. It's a real story from CNN. Right, that's a bit of a red flag there, in my humble opinion. If you were supporting communists during the Cold War, everything you say for the rest of your life is garbage to me. Period. But all of that is nothing compared to the mainstream media who put everything they had into peddling this fake narrative. CNN, MSNBC, the paper outlets, they were all wall-to-wall with the Trump-Russia collusion narrative. You'll never forget that Time magazine cover, the White House merging with the Kremlin, right? They recycled that and did the same thing again, and they had Donald Trump's face merging with Putin's face. But every huge story, every bombshell that broke in their favor had to be corrected or retracted. Right? Trump-Russia bombshell stories were journalistic kryptonite every single time. And the quest to become Woodward and Bernstein has produced in the media a bungling bunch of Ron Burgundys.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Remember Brian Ross? He used to be the chief investigative correspondent at ABC. He's not anymore because he reported that Trump directed Flynn to make contact with the Russians before the election. Whoops. Oh, it was actually after the election. Unfortunately for Brian Ross, that was a pretty crucial preposition that he messed up. All right, 3 people lost their gigs at CNN for running a fake story about Scaramucci being involved in Russian collusion. Remember the Deutsche Bank story? Fake. Donald Trump Jr. got word about the WikiLeaks drop before it happened. Oh, wait, another epic preposition fail. It was after. It was after it happened, and everyone was telling everyone about it. So basically, Donald Trump Jr. received basic news that everyone was receiving from everyone. So that was another pretty crucial preposition there. There were more than that. I mean, those were just the ones off the top of my head. All these media screw-ups happened because we don't have a media that gathers information and then draws conclusions. We have a media that draws conclusions and then gathers information to support their collusions. And that is very poor journalisming. I mean, how many times have Eric Swalwell and Adam Schiff appeared on TV to push the Trump-Russia narrative with zero pushback from anchors? Only about 1 million? Okay, so we have a fake narrative bought and paid for by the Democrats in the Hillary campaign. And we have the MSN shoveling that narrative into every home for us. Now we raise the stakes on it. Step 3. You make it the end of democracy. It's not enough for stories to be self-contained. They all, for Democrats, have to be the end of democracy or the end of the world. Right? Because that raises the stakes. So, in the wardrobe reality of the mainstream media, this Russia collusion, without a drop of evidence, mind you, this Russia collusion became the reason Trump won the 2016 election. Our democracy was destroyed by Trump-Russia collusion. Trump colluded with Russia, and then something happened. We'll fill in the blank later. We're not sure what it was. And then Trump won the 2016 election. Okay. Rich elite New Yorkers with their own national TV shows know that Trump didn't really win that 2016 election because how could he have? They've never met anyone in their whole life who voted for him. So weird. What other explanation could there be Besides a massive conspiracy where covert Russian agents working in lockstep with Donald Trump somehow carried him over the finish line. What else could there be? Saying things are the end of something is a favorite Democratic tactic, right? CNN, net neutrality, the repeal of net neutrality is the end of the internet as we know it. They actually said that. You remember that? The left told us that Twitter was now going to cost us $10 a month. Every movie you watch on Netflix going to cost you $10. That didn't happen. Of course, that was never going to happen. Calling net neutrality repeal the end of the internet as we know it was like calling the cancellation of Two Broke Girls the end of television as we know it. I think it's going to be okay. But that's what you do. You exaggerate the stakes until it seems like you either get your way or everybody's going to die. Remember this little girl talking to Dianne Feinstein?
Scientists have said that we have 12 years to turn this around.
I'm guessing she didn't get that from the science journals that she's been reading. Children are most susceptible to this sort of Democrat gaslighting. And so, that's why it's so important that 16-year-olds be able to vote really soon. So anyway, you remember that it's the end of the world in 12 years because global warming. Nancy Pelosi called the tax cuts the end of the world. The tax cuts were the end of the world. They were Armageddon.
This is Armageddon.
And the point is to make you think that if we don't get Bruce Willis to take a spaceship and land on the tax cuts and drill a hole and drop a nuclear bomb into the hole and blow up the Republican tax cuts, they're going to hit the earth and it'll be an extinction level event. You see, since the narrative that you're peddling is false, you have one big problem. And that big problem is smart people who care about the truth, and they care more about the truth than they do about advancing your narrative. And that's where step 4 comes in. You're going to have to smear those people into the ground. You're going to have to smear those people as hard as you absolutely can. So what do? You call them conspiracy theorists, traitors, liars. In other contexts, you might go with racist, Islamophobic, xenophobic, homophobic. Everyone who disagrees with you gets tossed into a basket of deplorables, if you will, and you just smear them into oblivion. It accomplishes a couple of things. It makes other people scared to admit that they agree with the person. So even if the person sticks to their guns, other people are now afraid to admit that they agree with that person. It makes people afraid to be on that side of the issue. Nobody wants to be smeared. It's horrible. They make agreeing with them the path of least resistance. If you disagree with them, what's going to happen to you? Media Matters might get you fired from your job if you disagree with them. All right, last step. Step 5, rinse and repeat. You start the whole cycle over on whatever the new issue is. All right, so I laid out the steps, and you can look at how everything the left does fits that cycle. And a really good microcosm of it is if you look at the Nick Sandmann story. Nick Sandmann was the Covington Catholic kid who smiles at the Native American man who's beating the drum in his face. All right, that's a perfect microcosm of what the left does on a more massive scale all the time. Step 1, someone invented a narrative that Nick Sandmann harassed this Native American guy. Step 2, the mainstream media drew conclusions and then investigated after they had already drawn conclusions. So what did they investigate for? They found information that fit their conclusions. It was very easily debunked because they didn't investigate it at all. They found the edited video on the internet. It fit their conclusions, so they ran with it. 5 minutes later, there were 1,000 dumb opinion pieces and 1,000 dumb media outlets about what a monster this Nick Sandmann was, and his smiling is emblematic of all the white supremacy in the world. Step 3. It wasn't just about one incident. Look at this kid and this Native American man. It was emblematic of everything, right? Suddenly, every Trump supporter in America is a garbage person smirking at Native Americans. And it's not just Native Americans. Nick Salmon is every Trump supporter smirking at everyone who's not a Trump supporter. Right? Because if the stakes aren't that high, that it's everyone versus everyone in this situation, if it's just Nick Salmon and a Native American guy, then who really cares that much? Step 4, very important. Anyone who defends Nick Salmon is definitely a racist. This is how you get all the spineless conservatives on board, like I was talking about earlier. They want to make sure the mainstream media knows that they do not question the narrative. So then we get the conservatives saying that, oh, yes, all this is true. Yes. I like the conservative magazine. What's it called? National Review. I like National Review sometimes. I read a lot of things in National Review. They have some good work. But even they ran an opinion piece that Nick Salmon may as well have spit on the cross. Of course, that terrible piece is deleted now because this whole story was a lie and Nick Salmon was a nice kid who did nothing wrong. All right, so step 5, the Salmon thing turned out to be a lie. So let's jump to the next story and do it all over again. I swear, this is how the Democrats operate on every issue. Look at this entire cycle that I just went through is exactly what happened to Brett Kavanaugh. Invented narrative that he was a teenage rapist, zero evidence. Mainstream media ran with it, even ignoring exculpatory evidence. They said, oh yeah, Brett Kavanaugh is a rapist. And all the pundits on every show went, oh! Yep. They even ignored exculpatory information. They cut it out. They didn't put it on the air. So putting him on the Supreme Court became what? A threat to democracy. And if you disagreed with them on any of this, you hated women. Remember how they smeared Susan Collins after she cast that deciding vote. And I could keep going. I could do this over and over for every issue because this is how the Democrats roll. And if none of my examples convinced you, here's Nancy Pelosi explaining how it works. Now, to put this in proper context, she was accusing Republicans of this. But we all know that Democrats accuse Republicans of all the things that they do. So here's Nancy Pelosi explaining how the wrap-up smear works.
You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and if they see it's reported in the press that this, and this, so they have that validation that the press...
Now, when she was saying this, she was accusing Republicans of it. She wasn't saying this is what we do. But I'll leave it up to you to decide who that sounds like. Does that sound like the Republicans, or does it sound like the Democrats? And I had forgotten all about that clip, so I want to thank Irritated Woman on Twitter for sending me that clip this morning. It made me remember it, so I included it in the show because it's a really good one. All right, so in short, here's what happened today. 2 years of mainstream media nonsense blown out of the water. Beautiful day. Who knows whether or not Democrats would have taken back the House if President Trump hadn't had this Russian collusion specter hanging over his head. But it looks like Democrats are going to have to invent a whole new bunch of BS before the 2020 election. I'm sure they got Fusion GPS on the phone right now. All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, please subscribe on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. That's it for today. I'm out of here.
We ain't found shit.
You just listened to Politics for Patriots with Eddie Zipper. Email the show at patriots@eddiezipper.com. And please subscribe.